This unexpected lens has reminded me how much I used to love the digital Leica M cameras. Coming up, I have a fast 50mm lens for you, lots and lots of sample photos, and for you street photographers, I share my attempts at street photography with my Leica M240 in addition to my usual portraits. The lens we're looking at today is the 7 Artisans 50mm f1.1. I head over to Valencia for some nice light. I think I underestimated quite how much of an impact good light can have for street photography. Hey guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. After finding the 7 Artisans 51.1 lens for a great price on MPB, that gave me the excuse to book a cheap flight to somewhere slightly sunnier so I could test the lens in more detail. The plan was to do some street photography but also portraits, and if you've seen this channel before, I normally use the Leica SL camera for maybe 95% of my photos. What I didn't anticipate was how much I'd love using the fast 50mm lens on my Leica M240. It paired much better than expected, and I think I shot a third of my photos on the M240. Let's first give you some lens specs so you know a bit more about this lens. As the name suggests, the 7 Artisans 50mm lens has a maximum aperture of f1.1 and a filter size of 55mm. Here you can see the lens on my Leica M240, and I think it's pretty compact for a fast 50. The lens comes with a click-less aperture, which is good for video shooters, and it has 13 rounded aperture blades, which is amazing for bokeh. The lens has a close focus distance of 0.7 meters, and this lens is rangefinder coupled. There is a slight viewfinder blockage in the bottom right hand corner, but it doesn't really make any impact in real life use. The lens is 6-bit coded, which is unusual for Chinese lenses. I've not seen that before, and it's got quite a deep rear element which may impact photos on some cameras. I'll get to that later in the video. Now, how does the 7 Artisans 50 f1.1 compare to the Leica 50 f1 or perhaps the TT Artisan 50 0.95? In terms of price, the difference is pretty dramatic, and also in weight too. It's the lightest and the cheapest of these three mentioned lenses, and here you can see the size is fairly similar to a Summilux lens. Okay, for those of you more interested in photos, let's now look at some 7 Artisans 50mm f1.1 sample pictures shot with my Leica M240. Most of the photos you're going to see are shot as raw, unedited, so you can get a true representation of what the camera can do. I think it speaks volumes when you can post raw photos straight out of camera, no editing, no colour adjustments, nothing. I think that says a lot about whether it's a good lens or not. Yes, as you can see, the lighting was fantastic for street photography. This was shot in December, so you've got really low winter sun coming in, giving some really nice directional light. And then my preferred style of photography is to shoot towards the light. This can be good, this can be bad, depending on if a lens flares or not, and you'll see more of that as we get into the video. For you Leica M shooters that enjoy shooting low light street photography, the 7 Artisans 51.1 is a game changer because of the fast aperture. Here is me chasing a moving subject, so it's not quite sharp, but as you can see here, the bokeh is just fantastic when you're shooting low light, and it really inspired me to take more photos. What about during the daytime? Now, during the daytime, I'm used to using Leica SL cameras as mentioned, so I've not used an ND filter for quite a while with the digital camera. If you're shooting this lens on a sunny day, you will need to use an ND filter, neutral density, if you want to shoot this lens wide open at f1.1, because you will exceed your maximum shutter speed of 0.004 of a second. As you may know, if you've seen my work before, I'm a portrait photographer and not a street photographer, but the light was just so good in Valencia that I actually quite enjoyed street photography, even though I did kind of question to myself, why am I photographing these random people? I'm probably never going to use the photos again. Although I'm completely in my comfort zone when it comes to pointing a camera in a model's face, I'm totally out of my comfort zone when it comes to pointing a camera in a stranger's face. I guess partly it seems unnecessary, partly kind of intrusive, and I guess I wouldn't want someone pointing a camera in my face in the street, so I feel the same when I'm doing the same to others. That said, the light was so good, it was just making me take photos, and I just tried to do it in a less obtrusive way and not straight in the face, and as you can see here, a lot of the time shooting from the back just to get the nice lighting. Here you can see more sample photos shooting kind of bits and bobs, again mostly shooting for the light, and also shooting in the underground in the metro to see how it would work at low light, shooting the lens wide open at 1.1. Here is the bokeh at 1.1. Okay, so you saw my efforts at street photography. Now let's get into what I prefer, female portraiture. So this is where I have full control of the lighting, the posing, everything, and hopefully as a result I can get better photos than I can get with street photography. These photos are with a Mr. Leica black and white preset added because I'd already edited them, sent to the models. I just add my presets and then send models all photos. If you want any of my Leica camera presets, I can put a link below. I did record quite a few behind the scenes clips shooting with the models for Patreon, and with that, a huge thanks to my amazing patrons. Patreon is the platform where I share additional content every month, and there's also a huge back catalogue. To check out the videos, link below. Okay, so as mentioned, I also had my Leica SL camera with me, which is normally my camera of choice when it comes to portraits. The question is, how do the photos compare when shooting the 7 Artisans 51.1 lens on the Leica SL? These photos are with my Mr. Leica preset added, as you can see from the details on the right hand side, and this lens is just so good for portraits. Some photos, as you can see, I'm quite close, and that's using a 7 Artisans close focus adapter. This works for any M lens if you're using a SL or any L mount camera. To show you what this lens is capable of, these photos are now raw and edited straight out of camera from the Leica SL, shooting towards the sun. I'm going to do a full video just using this lens for portraits because it is that good, and I'll share some tips and tricks when it comes to lighting and when using available light only. Look out for that, and feel free to subscribe if you're new to the channel and you want to learn more about portraits and especially the lighting aspect of portraiture. Feel free to confirm in the comments below, but this lens is said to be a sonar formula, and from the bokeh that could well be true because it's just fantastic. It's just so pleasing for portraits and even for street photography, as you saw earlier in the video. With a maximum aperture of f1.1, this lens can be really useful for low light and night photography. I did use this lens on my Leica M3 too, but I've not yet developed the film. Now, these photos with a slightly different look are shot with a non-Leica camera using the 51.1 lens. I will do a full video because I'm going to do like a shootout video, so if you're not yet subscribed, you may want to subscribe, especially if you like the latest digital cameras. Here is potentially one of the cover photo ideas, and yeah, this lens was a lot of fun, coming soon. Okay, onto lens characteristics. So this lens is not the best for sunstars. I did try f11 and f16 and didn't have much luck when it came to sunstars. The 7 Artisans 50mm f1.1 lens is discontinued, and that might be because of some of its perceived flaws. As for example, this lens does flare very easily. Here is a with and without flare comparison. That said, I just use my hand to protect the lens where possible, and I could still shoot straight at the sun and have no problems whatsoever. In fact, I actually quite like the flaws from this lens. It gave a more arty look, which is the look I'm going for. When I'm looking to buy a lens for my Leica cameras, ideally I want a more artistic representation of the scene in front of me, and this lens does that in heaps. The rendering is beautiful, and so is the bokeh. If you love bokeh lenses, this lens is definitely for you. These photos show you get the round bokeh balls at every f-stop, and that is a huge improvement compared to many Leica lenses such as the Summilux 50mm lenses, where wide open the bokeh is beautiful, as with the 1.1. But as you stop down a Leica lens, you often get the ninja style bokeh, which I really don't like. Okay, what about sharpness? Apparent sharpness is good, especially in the center, but edge sharpness is soft even when you stop down. Here you can see a comparison at different f-stops close up, and I think from f2 to f2.8 you start to get a lot more contrast and clarity, and yeah, very usable photos. As a portrait photographer, I was shooting mostly at 1.1, a little at 1.4, and the sharpness is good. And then for those of you that prefer to shoot in colour, this lens has got, I would say, maybe a slightly warm look, although the lighting in Valencia was maybe slightly warm anyway. Here you can see the colours, no complaints whatsoever. Now, I've only used the lens on the Leica M240 when it comes to M cameras, but you do get a little purple cast or purple fringing from this lens because of the deeper lens element. On the SL, no issues, as you can see from this photo. So the big question, what is the verdict, and can I recommend this lens? If you love artistic lenses the same as me, the answer is absolutely yes. I love lenses that give me better than reality photos because of all of their flaws. This lens is flawed in many ways, and it is far from perfect. If you're a portrait photographer, I would highly recommend this lens based on all the 50mm lenses that I've tested, and I've tested many. Check out my various videos below. If you're an M shooter, I found the calibration to be absolutely spot on at 1.1, and I was using the rangefinder for focusing all of my photos, no EVF necessary. I love the fact that this lens is much smaller than my favourite TTR10 lens. Comment below if you want me to do a side-by-side review.